Okay. So I'm going to record this to sort of give you the strategies and some of the info and bits behind why and how you tag and release a product, and some of the tools that I use to get there.
Yeah.
So just to give you the big overview of why we tag everything, and it's to get a known state of something, to get a known point in time where we know exactly what's in this product, what the bugs are, what the features are, what the functionality is. So it's a reference in time is what it is. And a product is made up of a whole bunch of little bits of those. So that's a tag. So the idea for a product release is we want to really tag everything, or we want to have everything on a specific version, including contrib. That goes libraries, profiles, modules, themes, and anything in between that we have. So there's a lot of little pieces.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's everything, and that was one of the components that was missed yesterday, was the profiles work. So all that lovely work that we've done with our with the inheritable stack, that's part of the trick behind this. So for Jumpstart Engineering, you have to take everything that was Jumpstart Engineering specific. So that's this file here. This is the development make. So that's that. But it also inherits from Jumpstart Academic, and it also inherits from Jumpstart vanilla or simple, whatever we're calling it these days. And then that inherits from something called abstract, and that inherits from Stanford. And all of those things can change while you're working on engineering. So you don't know really by looking at this file alone what you have to tag. But what you do know is that you've been working away at the development build of this site. You've been working away at that, and you know that's what you want, right? So when you build that development build, in this case, when you make this, you know that's exactly what you want. That's the point in time in what you want. So everything that's a part of that needs to have a tag, needs to have a version. So you can take a look at all the pieces. So then you have to go in, and when I mentioned that, you should probably be looking at the canonical source, and that being the build of the site itself. That's where you got to go into the profiles directory, into the modules directory, into the themes directory, libraries directory, and take a look and see where everything is. Find out whether or not it's moved to point versions, or whether or not you want those point versions, with chances are.
So you go from, okay, I was just looking at the PML. I wasn't even thinking about going directory by directory. Do you actually go? Oh my gosh, okay.
So a lot of what I do is go directory by directory. Another way you can take a look and see what has changed versus development builds is what I did is I built side by side each of the production builds and the development build. So on the left side of my screen here, I have the development build, and the right side I have production build.
Yeah.
So immediately when I hop into this is a tool called Visual Differ. What it does is it compares two directories. So then I compared what was in the development site versus what was in the production build, which didn't have up. So this will be able to show me, in this case, it has red and blue to indicate things that are different, or there's additions. And I was able, so this one is pretty close now because I've got them there. But when I first loaded this up, all the profile directories were red, saying that there's stuff. So I can then come in here and I can find out what exactly is different. So I can see that I have got in my dev build and my production build, they're always visible. It's actually different. I updated to a development version in my dev build. So you can see that I have things that are different, and then there's an extra file here as well. And I can see what is different too. So this is a great tool. So this is the way to indicate how much work I have left. All this other stuff that's the same, I don't need to touch, because that's what I want. They're at the same version, and that's great. Sometimes I look into things and I come into a site, so I go sites, modules, I don't need to do contrib. But if I come into Stanford, and I get into, say, like Stanford Carousel,
okay, well,
and I hop into here, I can just tell that, okay, well, this is just a version difference. That's not a big deal. I'm fine with that.
That's what I was wondering about. Because once you put the version difference in, they differ, and then you become...
It's not going to be 100%, and it shouldn't really be 100%. And there might be things that you don't want too, but you need to be able to find out what those things are and how to make those differences. And you can go into each of these directories bit by bit, and then take a look at the Git log and see if it's at a tag or if it's at a development version. and then go forward along with that. So there's a bunch of modules too that didn't move forward. Image styles, a bunch of stuff in here. So there's a number of things that needed to have tags.
I thought I
one of
tagged
them,
some of them.
not all of them.
Okay.
So one of the interesting ones, I'll give an example, is coming to Stanford Jumpstart. So there's some decisions to be made on what kind of tag we have as well. Well, it's the same kind of tag, but what the version or the number is. So with Jumpstart, so this module is really tied into the product itself. So we don't actually want to give this Jumpstart module a new minor number. So we can't tag a 4.6 without releasing the full product itself as 4.6. Those are supposed to stay in stuff. So it becomes a little bit of a complication. So when you're actually looking at the various different modules, you got to take a look and see what has changed. If I look at Stanford Page, and I look at Stanford Jumpstart, Stanford Page got that was not when I actually did release. What one did I release? Let me go back. I think it was Stanford Landing Page. Yeah, so Stanford Landing Page got a full release. And what I could do is I could come into this page here on GitHub in the releases page, and I can see, okay, this was the latest release at before the last one, and it was 18 commits behind whatever was in development. So that tells me there's a lot of work that's been gone into this since the last time I tagged it and released it onto something. So this is what I was on the JSA. So I took a look and I went into the commits and I took a look to see what was in those 18 commits. And I decided, okay, there was enough work in here that would warrant a new version number. There's enough changes. So there's a few big critical bug fixes in this. So I've had to put out a new release, the 1.3 version, and then I could add that version to engineering. Oh yeah, you're in SOE. Then I could add that to the engineering. Actually, that was in the deployer, but anyway, so I got a new tag. When you come into something like Jumpstart, where you can't push a full new version release, what I do is you create a stub or a plus 18 dev or plus whatever commit numbers dev. So what happened actually was this release is actually 18 commits ahead of where this was, of 7.45. Okay. So that's all that is. This is following the Drupal development, the Drupal packaging conventions. And then I can reference this tag so that when I come back to Stanford Web Services and I go into deployer, I go into make, and I go to production, and I go down to engineering. If I come down here, then I can reference all of these versions. So I've got a couple in here. So this is a plus 18 dev, and there's a plus 6 dev. And these are for the various different modules that we've tagged that are different from, I'll make this bigger, that are different from what is in JSA. So that's another tricky part too, is you have to take a look and see what JSA is on. And actually there's one gotcha where was I? Here we go. For this particular profile, I had to take these as well. So for this particular profile, JSA was actually pulling down a branch, and I wanted it to go to a tag. So we should have as much as possible, if not everything, in a production environment on a tag versus a branch. I'm trying to take everything, trying to get in that habit. There's a couple things. So abstract for a while there, it just kind of sat and didn't really matter. But it's moving a bit more. So we're getting in the habit of taking it appropriately. But I had to say, don't do the branch, do the tag.
Okay.
So there was a whole bunch of stuff. So that's the trick. You need to build the thing that you want, and then you need to make sure you stamp every little thing that's in it, so that you know that that at one point in time is the canonical version. So now I have this make file, that this is my canonical version. So this just got merged in. So this is saying this is Jumpstart Engineering 1. Actually, in the deployer, what I'll do too is I'll actually make a release here in the deployer.
Yeah, good.
And I can call it this one. what are we going to name this one? Because this is its own thing. We can call this whatever we want. We can start a naming convention for this today. You want to call this JSE 1.0?
I guess so. That looks nice.
Okay. Good enough. Now in the deployer, now we have a tag on the deployer. So now we have a version that we know what JSE 1.0 is. We have a point in time in the deployer now that says this is what JSE 1.0 was. So we've got a listing of all of the tags that make up the product.
Yeah, that's good.
There you go. So there's tagging and there's how to identify. So the keys are to be either diligent about going through all of the little pieces that make up a build, or to have a comparison tool of some sort to let you know where you're at. So when I put out a new version of Jumpstart Academic, what I'll do is I'll build the development version and I'll compare it to the current production version, tag anything that has changed, repackage it, and then publish it as a next version.
Okay, yeah, I was just doing diffs on the PMLs, which is not clearly enough. Okay.
And unfortunately, that's not going to give you the information you need because the version numbers are not always consistent. So that's the other thing I'm trying to do too, is set everything back to the dev version number in the .info file. So a few of those modules that we work on tend to lag behind, and as far as the version number change, so they'll stay at the whatever the version was, even though that they've moved further down the line. But so that's not a good source of truth.
Right.
What we really want to do is look at the Git repositories. That's your best source of truth. It knows everything has changed.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.